Hello and welcome to another episode of FIL TV. At the moment we're stuck inside my newly cleaned out wardrobe that's looking fabulous now that I can actually see where everything is. But during my decluttering process I've realised two things. That A, I have a shit ton of clothes, and B, I don't know a great deal when it comes to how my clothes are having an impact on our environment. But lucky for us, I know just the person to help us. Kari Vallury, owner of Slow Clothes and ethical and sustainable fashion guru, will give us all the tips we need to know on how to be more conscious. Kari, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
I've been going through my wardrobe, which is an absolute mess, and I want to know what in my wardrobe is sustainable and what isn't. And when I do go shopping, what I'm actually looking for. But I think we'll start with what sustainability in the fashion industry actually is and why the topic is so important.
Okay, well that is a massive question. The word sustain, I think it's important first to talk about language, I guess. The word sustainability and ethical sort of are often used to mean the same thing, and they're often used very broadly because companies know if they say sustainable or ethical, or they do one thing that's sort of sustainable or ethical, they know you'll assume they're doing everything. I think it's really important to be quite specific about what it means, and when you see it used, what it is being used to mean. There are three pillars, I guess, of sustainability that the fashion industry is really talking about at the moment. There's social, there's economic, and there's environmental. And so I think today we're talking mainly about the environmental aspects, but I guess it's important to note you can't separate them. Like, you can't just work in environmental sustainability and not worry at all about social or economic sustainability. They have to come together if the industry is going to be sustainable. If we're talking about environmental sustainability, what we're really talking about is creating a fashion system that produces clothes at a speed and in a way that our natural world can maintain and sustain over time. So not overusing resources and not overproducing pollution and waste are really two key aspects of that. So every single thing we wear and do has an impact on the environment around us. I guess that's some of the reason why it can be so surprising to some of us working in this industry that people really don't often care about this.
And is that why you started your own business, Slow Clothes? Because you are passionate about sustainable clothing and you do feature that?
Yeah, so I guess I grew up with an environmental scientist for a mother, and we did a lot of environmental work on weekends and all of the time really. And then I went and studied international development and public health and became really fascinated with the human aspects of development and inequity. And so when I first started Slow Clothes, I was actually doing it from a place of wanting to help people to understand the human impacts of their clothes, but very quickly realised that you can't separate out those human from the environmental systems. And so now I very much focus on both. I really wanted to create a space where people could come and know that they can trust the information they're getting. So I'm an academic by day, so I really try and ensure I am using evidence wherever I can to make claims. And I really like to debunk myths, because what happens a lot now is, especially with social media and short character limits and catchy quotes, is that people are taking really complex issues and distilling them into very short, simplistic quotes or solutions, and it's just not that easy. And so treating citizens and consumers as if they are intelligent enough to understand the complexities, which I believe everybody is, rather than just trying to throw sound bites at them, giving them a space where they can come and really learn in a sort of a fun way, because it's fashion after all. It's, it's fun and it's beautiful. And then also shining a spotlight on brands that are doing amazing things in both the human and the environmental aspect. And so I really wanted to showcase brands that are inherently driven by their values, and the more we can support them and give them greater portion of the market share, the more they can take over the industry, and we can see really larger scale positive change.
Is there a way that we can find out which brands are sustainable, which aren't? Can we go on their website? How do we find out what's a good brand, what isn't?
Yeah, it's really tricky. It's really tricky. And I because I'm really obsessed with this whole thing, I spend my whole life reading about it, searching through brands on the internet. And look, it's not easy because all of the brands want to sell you something. You've sort of got to learn to read between the lines. And I think getting a basic education of fabrics and issues and terminology is really key if you're going to be able to sort of read through just the words on paper, I guess. There's a few tools that help. Good On You is an app. I think it was created in the UK. I often send people there because it's a nice place to start. They rate brands, independently rate brands from all over the world, and as time goes on, they're adding more brands in. But a lot of the smaller slow fashion labels that I work with wouldn't be on there because they mainly rate bigger brands. But if you're like going to the mall or you want to buy a new workout outfit and you don't want to buy it online and you don't want to wait, you can, if you're in your sports shop or whatever, go on there and just rate the different brands that are available to you and pick the best ones. Otherwise, following pages, I guess, like Slow Clothes, and there's a whole lot more, Ethically Kate, The Fashion Advocate, Green Hub, people that are really committed to this. If a company doesn't have a section on their webpage talking about ethics, sustainability, some aspect of that, I am wary. Because labels that are investing a lot in that often tend to talk about it. Some of the bigger brands don't talk about it that much because of like legal reasons, or they're making a lot of changes behind the scenes. But generally, if there's nothing on a website, I would ask questions. I often email labels, and if they give you a pretty generic response, that's also worrying. So the more transparent a label is, the more I would usually trust them. That said, transparency is not the be all and end all, like it's just the first step.
So when we go shopping, what fabric should we be looking for?
This is a good one. I mean, fabrics account for around 70% of a garment's environmental impact. So learning fabrics is really easy, and then you can just reduce your impact straight away. There's a concept called preferred fibres, and if you follow Spell and the Gypsy Collective, if you go on their website, they have a really amazing matrix table where they've mapped out their preferred fibres versus the worst options. So essentially, preferred fibres are like the best alternatives to the most common fabrics. So for example, if you love cotton, which is a really dirty fabric, it uses a lot of water and a lot of chemicals to make, then you might be looking for alternatives that feel and act similarly, but that are much better for the environment, like hemp or organic linen or organic cotton. If you're really into your activewear and you don't like wearing cotton or organic cotton activewear, you'll be looking for recycled synthetic alternatives. And if you really like your rayon and viscose, your like floaty boho dresses, you need to be looking for the lensing versions of those made by the lensing company like Eco Bureau or Tencel, which you may have heard of. So it's really about mapping out, I guess, what you buy the most of and then figuring out the most sustainable alternatives to that.
Sustainable fashion can be pricey sometimes. So is there other things and other tips and tricks that you can give us that we can reduce our impact in other ways?
I guess the first thing to say about that is it's expensive because it is more expensive to produce fabrics that aren't grown really quickly with heaps of fertilizers and GM aren't modified and all the rest of it. And then people are also being paid appropriately. So when we say expensive, I guess what we're saying is we've become so used to clothes being cheap and to almost like they're our right, rather. Wear and use what you already have and wear what you do have or buy as much as possible. Get the absolute most use out of it, because if you think about, say, how much water and resources and chemicals and CO2 emissions went into a single t-shirt, if you can wear that 100 times, the environmental cost is much lower per wear. So buying less and buying better quality when you do buy is absolutely key. The better quality pieces, especially if they are sustainable, so they're organic or they're a preferred fibre, for example, they will have had less impact when they've been made, and then they'll last longer. And because they're more expensive, you care for them better. The other thing, apart from fabrics and of course just buying less, is care. So a huge portion of the life cycle impact of a garment is when we own it. So washing things less is key. It's sort of a big part of the movement. Some people hate it. My husband cannot get on board with this. But washing things less and spot washing them whenever you can, airing them out to dry if they don't actually need washing, washing by hand and cold or on gentle on cold, and just not using dryers. So a lot of, for example, the CO2 emissions of a garment comes in your wearing. And then of course, wearing it as much as you can, and when you're done with it, being really thoughtful about what you do with it. So sending it to landfill is probably one of the most harmful things you can do. So thinking about, are there clothing recycling options for that particular fabric or garment? Do you know someone that would wear it? I'm seeing a few organisations popping up really recently, actually, which is fabulous, that will actually pay to take your old clothes away. Not donating crap to op shops, because they just then have to dump it in landfill. So you feel good about it, but it just ends up in landfill anyway.
So even if I have things that aren't sustainable in my wardrobe, if I wear them 100 times, I'm at least doing something. Is that right?
Absolutely. The best thing you can do is wear what you already have in your wardrobe, and not and just try and reduce how much you're buying new stuff. So that is number one, and it's totally free.
So Kari, last question. If you could have 3 items in your wardrobe, whether they be whatever fabric you like or whatever design you like, what would they be?
Oh my gosh, I am not a minimalist, like I'm a maximalist. So the beautiful work of like the stylists at the FIL Society, I am just like other end of their beautiful capsule wardrobe. Well, jeans, like wide leg, high-waisted jeans. I wear them every single day, and I actually bought myself a new pair last week. We had a new sustainable denim shop open in Adelaide, and I really wanted to support. And I know that I wear jeans literally every day of the week, so I do not feel bad about having like 4 pairs. At the moment, I have like these Dominique Healy tops and jumpers on rotation. They've all got fabulous arms, but they're all also like sort of baggy enough and conservative enough that I can wear them like casually at home or to work. So I think versatility is the most important thing in a garment, because if you can wear something several different ways or with like 50 other things in your wardrobe, you're going to get the most wear out of it. And then I'd probably say a shirt dress that can be worn as either a jacket or a dress, because you get double the amount of outfits you can from that.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Kari.
As you can see, Kari's super passionate about ethical and sustainable fashion and knows a thing or two about it. So if you just take one thing away from what she said, whether that be wearing your favourite item of clothing more, easy, or actually going and sourcing specific brands or fabrics, either way, you're taking a step forward. So thank you so much again to Kari, and hopefully you've learned a thing or two from her. See you later, guys. Bye.